My boyfriend, since we were kids, confesses a week before the wedding to having cheated on me with my sister, and she's pregnant. But 2 years later, I'm laughing because the baby is someone else's and he wants back. 2 years ago, I had to break off my engagement because my fiancé cheated on me with my sister. That happened right 1 week before the wedding, and only 3 days ago, he had the audacity to try to get back together. My ex-fiancé, Jason, not his real name, and I have known each other since we were kids. We went to the same school our whole lives, and we started dating when we were 14. After dating for almost 12 years, we decided to get engaged. Obviously, to me, it was the right thing to do. He was the one who proposed, so honestly, I had no reason to suspect he was cheating on me, let alone with my sister, since she and I were very close too. My younger sister, Lily, also not her real name, is 2 years younger than me, and we were practically best friends growing up. Even at my wedding, she was going to be my bridesmaid. But that never ended up happening. A couple of weeks after we got engaged, I started noticing Jason's behavior. It had become very strange. It was just small things, like he seemed distracted. Quite often, when talking about the wedding, he mainly tried to avoid talking about it. He spent a lot of time at work, and I felt like he didn't want to see me. I don't know, it was just weird. So I tried talking to him a few times, and I told him, in case he was having second thoughts about the wedding, that soon we could still postpone it and wait for a better time. We didn't have to get married that same year. But he told me that he wanted to get married and kept assuring me of it for almost 8 months. He kept me guessing, but I guess he found the nerve just a week before our wedding. Maybe it was that, or the fact that my sister was pregnant, that forced them to finally tell me about their affair. Either way, it really tore me apart when he told me. And the worst thing was that now that she was pregnant, he was planning on marrying her. According to what he told me, Jason had always had a bit of a flirt whenever they met up, but it had been a recent development. He never told me because he thought it was harmless. But one night, while he was out drinking with his friends, he bumped into Lily. That was it. As they were both drunk, they ended up sleeping together, and they promised not to do it again. But it happened multiple times after that, and by the time we got engaged, they were having a full-fledged affair. He told me he thought getting engaged to me would help them stop it. But he didn't finish and tried to make it sound like they were really out of control. But I didn't believe him. The day Jason told me the truth, he'd been having an affair with Lily for the past year. I gave her the engagement ring back that day and told her to move out of the house. I guess she'd prepared for it, as she already had her bags packed and left without a word. After that, I didn't speak to my sister either, as I really had nothing to say to her. With only a week until the wedding, I knew there was going to be a lot of spending going to waste, so I told Jason to take care of it, as I wasn't going to spend anything. Obviously, I was gutted, so I didn't even leave my house for the next few days. Lily came to visit me a couple of days after I found out, and she had to come back without even seeing me, as I didn't want anything to do with her. She had left a note saying she was so sorry on my door before to leave, but it meant nothing to me. Neither of them could take back what they had done, and the truth was she was going to have a baby with the man she loved. In circumstances like this, most people would expect their family to be by their side, but instead, my parents decided to support Lily as if she was the victim here. I don't understand what they were thinking, but on the day we were supposed to get married, my parents called me in the morning to ask how I was doing. They had been doing that every day for a week, ever since I found out about Jason and Lily. While we were making small talk, they suddenly told me that Jason and Lily were getting married in a private ceremony and that they were going to be present there. This was a shock to me, because after finding out about the affair, my parents had been furious and told me that they would never speak to Lily again. But now suddenly, they were telling me that they were going to be present to bless the union between my ex-fiancé and my sister? When I didn't say anything, they started explaining to me that they had been very upset with Lily, but she had begged them to attend because she didn't want to get married without her parents.
Also, she was 6 weeks pregnant and in an emotional state, so my parents felt that they had to be there for her and they hoped that I would understand. I told them just one thing. They could attend her wedding if they wanted, but that I would never speak to them again. They tried to tell me that I was being unfair, but honestly, at the time, I didn't care. So in the end, my parents just told me that they were going to attend the wedding and I could be angry if I wanted. Even Lily was their daughter and they couldn't help it. So that's how it went. Ever since then, 2 years have passed, but I have never spoken to Lily or my parents. Gradually, the rest of the family found out about everything too, because obviously this isn't something that people can keep a secret for too long. Once they found out, they spoke to me and I told them the truth about everything. So at the moment, there are very few people in our family that maintain a relationship with my parents or Lily. I didn't really know what they had been up to, but thanks to Jason, I now know. 3 days ago, I was about to leave for work in the morning when Jason turned up, and that was quite a shock to me. I hadn't seen him for 2 years, and I hadn't even I'd heard about him since I told all my friends I didn't want to know what he was doing. I was pretty speechless seeing him outside my door, and he took the opportunity to tell me that he was there to apologize for everything that had happened in the past and to try and give our relationship a second chance. If I'm honest, I was completely frozen. This was the first time I'd seen him since our terrible breakup, as I'd done everything I could to avoid seeing him. So for him to be standing outside my door after 2 years was a bit surreal for me. As he wasn't saying anything, he carried on talking to me and told me that his relationship with Lily turned out to be a sham and that he regretted ever getting together with her. He told me that if she hadn't been pregnant, he wouldn't have even married her, and now they were getting a divorce because he'd just found out the baby wasn't even his. Apparently, he'd found messages on Lily's phone recently as he'd suspected that she was having an affair with someone else due to her strange behavior. He sneakily checked her phone and found out that for the past few years, she'd been having a relationship with her boss. She'd been married to Jason for just over 2 years, but with her boss, she had been in an on and off relationship for almost 4 years. When he confronted her about this, she broke down and said that she had really tried to get over her boss and forget him, but as he had been her first boyfriend, she just couldn't leave him. It was quite disgusting because according to my calculations, Lily had started working at that company when she was 22, which is when her relationship with her boss started. At that time, her boss was already in his late 30s, and from what I knew, he was a married man with a 2-year-old son. Anyway, Jason told me that when he confronted her about the messages that he had seen, she told him the truth. He said that recently in the last few months, she and her boss had managed to work things out and he had decided to leave his wife for her. Then she finally told him about his child too, and since there was some coincidence when she got pregnant, she managed to get a paternity test done. Unfortunately for Jason, his child wasn't really his. So now not only was he getting a divorce, but he was going to lose his child too. Although he had filed for at least partial custody, Lily's boss is very influential and he's very well connected, so it's a mystery how things will turn out. Jason was there to tell me all of this and try to fix things with me because he thought that this was all karma for him cheating on me. So now he felt like he had to apologize to me and also that he wanted to ask me if I wanted to make up with him and give our relationship a second chance because we had been together for a long time and the last 2 years had just been a huge mistake for him. By then, he had processed certain things, and when he asked me if I wanted to get back with him, I literally laughed in his face. It was a cruel thing to do, but it was okay. I wanted to be cruel. He seemed shocked after I laughed, and I told him that what was happening to him at the moment was exactly what he deserved. He had cheated on me with the person he considered himself closest to in the world, and now that person had cheated on him too. Life had come full circle, and I couldn't be happier about it. Then, just to add insult to injury, I told him that I wanted him to get nothing out of the divorce and lose custody of his son, because maybe then he'd realize how horrible he made me feel after saying that I told him to get off my front yard and slammed the door in his face. Then I went back to my room and started getting dressed for work, but I ended up not going to work at all because I was too upset about what had happened. It's been 3 days since then, and I had managed to forget about that conversation with Jason and put him out of my mind, but this morning, Jason's parents called me. I didn't get the chance to talk to them after breaking up with Jason, but I didn't know he was blocked or anything. It was weird that they would contact me after 2 years, but they had been nice to me before it was all over, so I decided to answer the call since I knew that they wouldn't call unless it was something urgent. When I answered the phone, Jason's mom told me that she knew Jason came to see me 3 days ago, but she really needed to know what we had talked about.
Ever since he came back from that meeting with me, he had locked himself in his room and refused to come out even to eat. He just spent the day crying, and he would only come out after everyone else had gone to sleep to eat without anyone speaking to him. Apparently, he'd been refusing to speak to anyone and kept saying that he deserved everything. Long story short, he was a pathetic mess and his parents were worried, so they decided to call me as I was the last person he'd seen before this happened. I felt a bit bad because his mom was a very kind woman and seemed genuinely concerned about her son, but I didn't want to lie to him, so I told her exactly what he had said, and she was silent for a couple of minutes. He then told me that only 2 weeks earlier he'd found out that Lily had been unfaithful to him, and that had been hard enough in itself. But he'd also found out that the child he'd been raising wasn't his own child. That really affected him, and he was really scared of losing custody of his son because he wasn't biologically related to him. Plus, Lily's boss was a man in a position of power, so he'd been really paranoid and anxious and had been talking to me about how this was all karma because of how he'd treated me, and it was actually his mom who suggested that he should talk to me and try to work things out, even though she hadn't told him to come back to me because I think everyone knows that I wouldn't take him back anyway. After explaining the situation to me, she told me she knew Jason had made mistakes and had been a horrible partner to me, but he just needed me to forgive him, or at least tell him that I forgave him even if I didn't mean it, just so that he could feel a bit better about himself and find the strength to fight through the adversities, and that's when it started to fall apart. I felt kind of bad for her and I didn't really want her to cry, so I told her I would think about it. However, I have thought about it, and I don't intend to tell him that I forgive him, even if it's just to say it. I don't want to say it because I don't mean it. I don't forgive him, and I don't think I ever will. I just don't have it in me. But telling his mom will be quite hard for me, and I feel like this might be an overreaction at the moment, but it's how I feel. So would I be the bad one if I told my ex-fiance's mom that I don't forgive him and that I won't tell him either? Update 1. Thank you so much for all the comments and support. It's been 2 days since Jason's mom contacted me, and I've decided that the next time he asks me if I'm willing to talk to him or not, I'll just say no. After reading the comments and speaking to some close friends and family, I realized that I'm not obliged to be nice to Jason. The only reason I felt guilty and questioned my decision was because I'm a normal person, and often people find it difficult to set boundaries, even when they're well-deserved. I feel so much better about my decision now, and I'm confident that I'm not the bad one. Talking to my friends about the issue was a good decision for another reason. Talking to them, we found out that Lily's boss's soon-to-be ex-wife is related to a friend's girlfriend. She's a distant cousin, but there is some relationship. We found out that she and her husband had been in an open marriage for the past few years, so technically her boss wasn't cheating. Lily had been the one to make a mistake. The only reason her boss had stayed with his wife was to avoid the whole pension situation, alimony, and he wasn't really interested in getting a divorce at all. He just continued seeing Lily in secret and didn't want anything serious. Apparently, Lily had threatened to make the affair public, so he had been forced to file for divorce from his wife. If Lily had made the affair public, his reputation would have taken a serious hit, because after all, she was still an employee. Lily still works at the same company, and he is still her boss. Even though pretty much everyone knows about their relationship, people pretend like nothing is going on. However, once their respective divorces are finalized, they will keep everything under wraps for a couple of months before finally revealing the truth. The ex-wife is pretty chilled about the whole thing and has even been gossiping about his life, which is how my friend's girlfriend was able to find out. Although she's not exactly close to the woman, the gossip has spread widely in the family. Apparently, the ex-wife didn't oppose the divorce, but was demanding alimony, compensation, and child support, which is well-deserved, so it makes sense. I wish Lily had made better choices, and maybe her life wouldn't be what it is now, but as long as she's happy, I guess that's okay. Update 2. It's been almost a week since I last spoke to Jason's mom. 2 days after my last update, she called me asking if I'd made up my mind or not, and I told her that whatever the reason, I wasn't going to tell Jason that I forgave him because I really don't. I don't think I should tell him. Just because he's been upset about what's going on in his life, I too was really broken when he dumped me after cheating on me with my sister. But no one was ever there for me, and that experience really hardened me. Now, I have no capacity to feel sorry for Jason, the guy who hurt me in the worst way possible and left me with lifelong trust issues. Instead of coming to terms with this, his mom started arguing with me and said that one conversation with me had led to Jason completely breaking down and that it was now my responsibility to fix him. She said that I couldn't just brush it off and pretend like it didn't matter because Jason was still in shock and refusing to talk to his family because of what I'd said to him. I found it ridiculous that he would blame me for his breakdown. I'd just been honest with him and told him that he deserved all of this because that's how it was. If he really expected me to forgive him after just one meeting, he was sorely mistaken, and that wasn't my fault. Then, his mom started expressing how disappointed she was with my behavior because she had always treated me like a daughter, like the daughter she never had, and she was only asking me for this small favor for the sake of her son, and I wasn't even willing to do that for her. It angered me so much because, yes, she had been very kind to me when I was with Jason, but after that, we hadn't even spoken. If she really considered me the daughter she never had, she would have at least called me once after her son broke my heart, but she never bothered. So I told her that I was pretty disappointed about that as well, and since she didn't have an answer for that, she told me that it was my family's responsibility to look after me and worry about me, not hers. It didn't even make sense because she had been the one who had just said that she had always treated me like a daughter. And I knew I was talking nonsense at that point because I had nothing logical to say. So I simply told her that I had made my decision and that she had to respect it. And then I hung up. After that, she tried to get a hold of me for a couple of days until today. I got home from work around 5:45 in the afternoon, and around 7, she showed up at my house. I was getting dinner ready and hoping for a quiet night in, so I really wasn't in the mood to talk to her. When I saw that she was the one standing outside the door, I told her to go away, and she said that she wasn't leaving without talking to me. It upset me a lot because I had made it clear the last time we spoke that I had no intention of speaking to Jason again. I could understand that he was going through a rough time, but since we were no longer together, it was no longer my problem. I told her once again if she thought repeatedly pestering me would change my mind, she was wrong. All it would do was upset me even more and maybe even make me call the police, which I really didn't want to do because she was a grown-up person and I had respected her a lot in the past. So I told her not to force me to do something that she wouldn't like because she didn't want to see me in that position. At that point, she started crying outside my door and said that she just didn't know what to do because it looked like Jason had given up on everything and
I could see her son falling apart, so as a mother, it hurt her to see him like this. And I felt like I was the only person who could fix this. That's why she was so desperate to talk to me. I felt really bad for her, so that's when I opened the door. Trying to be as nice as possible, I invited her in. I offered her a glass of water to help her calm down because she was clearly in such a bad state. I gently explained that I could understand that it was really hard for her to see her son in so much pain, but honestly, he had his flaws too, and I really wasn't the person who could be of help here. After what he had done to me, I just didn't have the capacity to see him again, because I knew that even seeing him would upset me. I tried to tell me to just give him a chance, but I told her that wasn't possible for me because I also had to look after myself. What he did to me 2 years ago was simply unacceptable and not something I had recovered from. Since then, I hadn't even dated anyone because I just couldn't, and he had really affected me forever, so I wasn't going to go the extra mile to try and be nice with that person. The most I could do for him was stay out of his way and never speak to him again. And she had to understand and respect that because even though she was his mother, she knew that he had treated me terribly, and it was unfair of her to ask him to lower her. When I explained all this to him, he nicely seemed to understand. After being silent for a couple of minutes, he said he was really sorry for upsetting us, but I just didn't know what to do. Then he left, and ever since then, I've been on my own. I'm glad I was able to work this out with her without having to call the police or anything, because I really wouldn't have liked him anyway. After he left, I finished cooking dinner and was about to sit down with some wine and watch a movie when I got a text from Jason. It was from a new phone as I had blocked him everywhere. Almost an hour and a half after his mother left my house, he texted me to say that she had come home and they had had a conversation. He said he was really grateful I treated his mother kindly, even though his family had only caused me trouble. He told me that for what it's worth, he was really sorry for what had happened, and I could completely understand why he said I deserved all of this, because he really did. He told me that this was the last message he was going to send me because after this he was going to try and be a better man so that maybe one day he would be the kind of person that deserved to be with me. That made me cry a little because even though I don't want anything to do with him, at one point he was my whole world. And it just hurts that he messed things up for us like that. But there wasn't much we could do at this stage, so I just filed that message away because I knew reading it over and over again would only cause me more suffering. I went back to my dinner. I hope everything is okay. Now, update 3. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and this time it's not about me. It's about Lily. Thankfully, everything is going well in my life at the moment. Jason and his family kept their promises and didn't bother me after that last meeting with his mother, and I was able to go back to my normal, regular life. However, I just heard some really juicy gossip from my friend, whose girlfriend is related to Lily's boss's ex-wife. Well, I guess should I refer to her as his wife now because I don't think they're getting a divorce. Apparently, a few days ago, Lily's boss decided to call off their divorce and told her that they couldn't continue with this affair because he had decided to get his life together and go back to his wife. Obviously, she was ready to kick up a fuss about it, posting stuff, but he bribed her. She had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and quit her job, but he did get paid a huge amount of money for it, so it's going to be all right for a good while longer. I think she'll agree to share custody of their child with Jason, which would be fair, because regardless of who his real biological father is, Jason had been crew low for so long. It's crazy how things played out for them, but hey, they're still getting a divorce, and no amount of money is going to make up for the fact that she lost both men. It's a shame she was a terrible person and still got away with it, but that's the way the world is, I guess. But I don't really care. I'm happy with my life and my job, and I know that I'm leading an honest life and not trying to be a homeworker. In a way, I'm glad that Jason and we've ended up married and that Lily is no longer
part of my life because it really was the best update for. I'm making this update because many have been asking me about my parents in all this. I haven't spoken to them for years, but I have spoken to some relatives who I asked not to tell me anything. However, now I've been finding out because it was a question that was repeated a lot, especially about what they thought of all this. Regarding my sister, well, my parents knew and didn't know. That is to say, they knew that my sister was having a divorce with Jason, but they didn't know that the baby belonged to her boss. According to their version, my sister and Jason were having problems. They even told Lily to try to fix things before taking that path. Of course, they didn't know that there was an infidelity involved and a paternity fraud. The worst of all is that they found out when the person who asked about me told them this. This person, she also didn't know about this because when I asked her what she knew about my parents regarding my sister's infidelity, she was completely shocked. And according to what I know, my parents too. That's all. And no, my parents did not have a soft spot for my sister. At least, they never treated us in a different way. If I had to guess, I would say that they wanted a grandchild and that's why they supported my sister. Update 5. It's not even been a week since I last updated to tell you about my parents, and I already have to do another update because of what happened with them and Lily. Like I said, they didn't know the details about Lily, but now that they know, they've had a talk with her and everything ended pretty bad between them. My parents must have found their hearts, because now they think what Lily did is pretty bad, but not what she did to me. I mean, they think it's wrong that Lily lied to her husband about the baby, but not that she slept with her sister's fiancé. What a bunch of crazy people. If I had to guess, my parents are a bit old-fashioned, so they are in favor of marriage. They are what you could call conservative. So having broken up is what must have mattered to them the most about all of this, not the infidelity itself. At least it makes me feel better having broken up with them at that time. The whole thing is too toxic.